All right, guys, it's the weekend. Hopefully, this message and this video finds you well. Pocket Change Market Report for February 15, 2025. I want to thank you guys for popping on by, checking things out in the current market space for errors and varieties, coins that you have found out in circulation. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. We do this video twice a week. This is our weekend edition of this report. As we embark on a journey like none other, 2025 has so far been quite the monumental year for a few reasons. All right, and as you've seen from some of my recent videos, that the craziness is continuing. So I wanted to take some time to explore about the last 24 hours of sold activity on eBay for some of the most incredible, interesting pieces that folks have found out there in the wild. Whether you're hunting through coin rolls direct from the bank, or you're at a local coin shop or a show and you're cherry picking some pretty phenomenal errors and varieties for yourself to resell or to add to your collection. There's really no wrong way of doing it, other than knowing that the market is quite robust at the current moment. So we are going to look at these here momentarily, and thank you again for tuning on in. We always like to kick off every video with a little announcement. I sell on the platform Whatnot. Not only do I sell on eBay, I also sell on Whatnot. I also sell on various other platforms as well. Whatnot has been the biggest, most impactful to my business. And we do shows every Friday. If you have not joined up yet, I suggest you do so. We have some pretty big events coming up here real soon. And the reward system is next level. So we have a QR code right on screen that you can scan at any moment. You scan that, you're going to be signing up under me. And because of that, you're going to receive $15 off your very first item, and it comes off automatically. There's no special coupon code or anything that you have to type in when you go to checkout on your first item. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from my store. It could be from any of the sellers that you see on the platform. Coins, paper money, comic books, sports cards, you name it. Whatever's being sold on Whatnot, you could cash in $15. So we have our shows every Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It would be glad to see a lot more of my new folks pop on in. It's a lot of fun, and you guys can even sell as well. We have referral links down below in the description box if you wanted to join the platform. Whatnot is always looking for spirited, motivated sellers, and come check things out. It's awesome. All right, so we're going to go ahead and toss right into some of these selections here on eBay. A few of the things that you need to know. The pictures are original to these sellers' listings. We didn't juice or doctor anything to make them look better. And second of all the coins come in raw. Nothing's graded. That's super important because grading costs a lot of money. If you can absolutely avoid the grading fees, please do so. And just go ahead and take good photos, pop them on board into a listing. And as long as you know what you're selling and they're correctly attributed or diagnosed, then you will be good to go. All right, so we're going to start off with one of the mainstays in the world of hunting out there. The 2000 Wide AM Lincoln Memorial Set comes in at number one here for the weekend edition. And yeah, it's in actually pretty decent shape. These particular coins from 98 to 2000, you can find some of the wide AMs. Of course, 1999 is the big chaser out of the three dates. Very rare to find, especially in nice higher grade condition like the one you see here on screen. But you'll notice on this one, look at the A&M on the reverse in the word America, that there is a pretty significant gap separating the two letters. And that's what you're going to be looking at here. Some people can see this with the naked eye. Some will probably need a magnifier of sorts to make sure they have what they have. But in any event, this is a coin that you should still hold on to. I know that the prices aren't particularly mind-numbing. You're not going to be able to retire off this one coin. There's a little bit of a better close-up. You can see that pretty significant gap right there in A&M. The coins were inadvertently struck with proof dies, and that's why this even exists. So this one right here sold for $5.68. It was a buy it now. It was probably overpriced by about $10. I usually see these somewhere in the $15-$20 range in mid-state red, like you see here. Nicer examples tend to sell pretty close to $20. And then lesser examples, sure, they fall in that $5 to $10 range. There's no shortage of these, but I'm happy to say that they're still very liquid in today's market. If you find these, hold on to them. Because just assume that every single one you do come across is like a $5 bill in your pocket. The next one that we have here, we had talked about a coin like this, but a different date. But a very similar variety can be found on a number of dates of Standing Liberty quarters. We have a 1919p Standing Liberty quarter, a little bit tougher date for sure. But this one is one that you should be on the lookout for because it will still make a financial impact on the coin when you go to sell it. That's the good news. They're going to be worth more than what a non-variety version of the same coin in the same grade would fall. All right, so this one right here, we're going to look for, if you look in the drapery just to the left of Lady Liberty's kneecap right there, you'll see a clashed E. That's the E for E pluribus unum on the reverse of the coin. So the coin was clashed, or the dies were clashed at some point. That's where the dies make contact with each other because there wasn't any planchet in the striking chamber during this action. So some of the design details will swap on the obverse and reverse dies. In this case, the letter E in E pluribus unum will be found right here. Now, not all coins have them. This is going to take a little bit of dedicated cherry picking to find. But this particular coin ended up selling today for $62.99, which is about probably 2x what the value is of the coin in this particular grade, even though it's a semi-key date. And we also cover paper money as well. Here's our first one for the day, a 1988 $1 bill. It looks like it's miscut, but when you really dig down deep of what we have here, this is more than likely misaligned inking or printing, which means the sheet was shifted during one of the three printing processes, and the print was applied kind of crooked or uncentered, things of that nature. When we look at the reverse here, you can see that the centering is just fine. It's a little bit heavy there on the left side, but overall, this is within the BEP tolerances for such an event. So all the action, obviously, on the front of the bill, pretty neat one there. This one sold for $38.69 with a total of 12 bids combined to reach that amount. So this one was organically bid up through a bidding kind of like format. That's where you could put it out there for 5 or 7 days and then people just intermittently bid on it all the way up to the last second. All right, so pretty nice sale here on this one. It's not kind of like a harebrained, crazy misalignment. We've seen much crazier misalignments here on previous videos, but just to let you guys know that even some of the more minor ones will still covet some sort of value on the secondary market. And this one right here, this one has fooled a lot of people, okay? And it's not exactly what you think. Now, it is a 1943 Steely, all right? It's probably, bar none, one of the most widely collected singular date of coins because of its unique composition. But what we see here, the letter or the number 4 in the date is completely missing. So a lot of people will kind of chalk this one up to one of two things. Strike through, pretty easy to see why there. Or fill dies, okay, which is kind of like a strike through. It's just the 4 in the die cavity filled with like impacted grease and debris, things like that. But because of the unique composition on these, Mint employees were actually having a very hard time striking these up due to something called die basoning is what the event is. And it's something, if you needed more, I guess, clarification, you could always go on to a website like errorref.com to get more knowledge on it. But it is kind of like a form, I guess, of die deterioration. due to the hardness of the steel composition, which is by far one of the hardest substances that ever got struck at the mint over the years. So it's created some pretty wacko stuff on this one singular date, aside from like die cracks and cuds and various other things of that sort. It's a very interesting thing. And it was a term coined by the great Ken Potter, who's the kind of like the error guru and variety person as well, out in the numismatic space. So I mean, it's pretty interesting. These are more common than you think. And you can also find them, I believe, on San Francisco minted coins. You don't see them as much on Denver's, but San Francisco minted pieces, you could find either a missing digit or the missing mint mark, all due to the the impacted nature of the die basoning that is happening here. So this particular example, quite a overachieved price on this one at $94.50. I don't know too many of these that have sold for that kind of money, as an oddity or an example of die basoning. They've traditionally sold for between like $5 to $20. Grade kind of plays a huge role in what they sell for. The better the grade, the more that they'll command. But I figure I'd just show you guys this because we don't talk about it that much. And, it's a terminology, die basoning, that is very Greek to a lot of newer collectors. We have one here, a 2001 P North Carolina statehood quarter that's slightly off center, probably less than 10% if I had to guess. And this particular example right here, came right straight out of change. It's got a rim bump as well on the front. It's far from the perfect coin, but we have to remember that there are collectors of these mint errors for the statehood quarter series. As few as there are that exists out there, there are actually people that are pursuing actual real live mint errors, at least one on every state, and that is a huge undertaking. North Carolina is one of the more tougher states to find with a mint error, but this one did pop up here this weekend to the tune of $29.95, and then boom, it disappeared just like that, and it's going off to a new collector. Or old collector, really depends. Next one that we have here is actually, you can barely see the date, but it is there, a 1997 Lincoln Memorial cent that was struck through a kind of like a middle stage cap die. So there was actually a coin stuck to the face of that die before striking up some of these coins, and this one is kind of like further along in that state. You'll know exactly what this is because you're going to have a really hammered reverse strike, and the obverse is generally going to look pretty weak, if not illegible, on there. And, it's pretty phenomenal when you do come across these. I found a few of these over the years, just casually going through bankrolls of Lincoln cents. But at least that is exactly what it is. But this is also misdiagnosed as a strike through grease as well. Traditionally, when struck through grease, you're not going to have a full, heavy, kind of like weak presence all throughout the front of one side of the coin. And in addition, some of that grease will end up on the other side of the die, so you'll actually have some strike through on the reverse as well. This particular one sold for $69.25. And the same seller had this one here as well in 1967. Also a struck through cap die event as well. This one a much later state, as you can see the date and Liberty and the outline of Lincoln right on there. This one, really nice shape. I would say, for the most part, problem-free. A nice, kind of like AU-53 example here. This one ended up selling for the same amount as the previous coin, $69.25. And 1943S Jefferson nickel coming up next. A coin with a myriad of problems. If you're able to kind of overlook all the little nicks and scratches throughout the coin that you're going to see on the reverse, a lamination tab right there where the end of Monticello is and cents. So you can see it's still retained, part of it partially folded over. This particular coin ended up selling for $30.75 here this weekend. And the steel cent or the Silver War nickel era from 42 to 45 is generally a hotbed for laminations and improper annealing type of issues. It's just they had a hard time striking some of these due to the the prep work of the planchets and the strips and everything like that. And pretty cool to see that you can find one like this where an attached rattan lamination is still on there. A lot of them have been kind of like ripped away over the years. Nothing too crazy here. 2022D Lincoln Shield set with a very minor strike through grease on both sides of the coin. You can actually see some of the weakness all throughout the peripheral area, which is kind of like more the edge of the coin of any of those devices. There was a little bit of grease on the dies, both sides, as a matter of fact, on this one. And this particular example sold for $18.21. I personally have found a number of these going through BU rolls of 2022 Denver coins. And, now that we know that they sell for this kind of money, it probably wouldn't hurt holding on to these because, if one sells, more will sell. 1978 Roosevelt dime here, just with a little bit of a curved clip, as you can see from 3 to 4 o'clock there on that side, the obverse. Even has a little bit of a Blakesley effect right above Liberty. Pretty easy to see there, slight flattening of that rim edge. So this is a rather minor, common to find single clip event. You can find these on quarters, nickels, Lincoln sets, dimes, as you can see. Candy half dollars. If you're an avid hunter of half dollars for the silver, you rest assured you can find a few of these pretty easily as well. This one right here sold for $11, but that kind of represents almost like a floor for the value of these with just one single clip. And then the more clips you find, you can find up to I think 3 clips on a single coin. Just kind of like multiply it times 2 and then another times 2 on there. And, that's where we're at on this one. 1964 Candy half dollar, the one singular date, bar none, in the Candy half dollar series where there's a lot of varieties to look for. And funny enough, it's on the Denver minted example. The Philadelphia ones leave a lot to be desired, unfortunately. They just didn't have a lot of doubled dies and RPMs and things like that. But the 64D, you ought to look at every single one of these. So we have a great example here of the doubled die obverse. I believe the FS101 is what this one is. You can see that just premium doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust." We trust, showing the strongest splitting and notching on all the serifs there. You can see doubling on the digits of the date as well. This one is a no-doubter. This strikes you as very strong. This one right here sold for $28.29, considering that mount value on such a coin is right around $11. You are certainly going to make up some money here. And these are quite common. Again, you're going to not have nearly as difficult of a time finding either a double to die from the state or a repunch mint mark. And there's 3 or 4 good ones for both respectively that you can capitalize on and make some money. So keep in mind, these are very desired and people do want them, especially on much nicer condition pieces. 1968 Lincoln Memorial set. You can see that indent right there on the coin. That means that there was, either 2 planchets or 2 struck coins overlapping each other, and then they were struck together, combined. There is actually somewhere out in the world today a matching piece that goes to this, kind of like a lock to a key type of scenario. But yeah, they call this an indent. We don't see any brockage or anything like that evident on this coin. Great example, nice mid-state red, a little bit of carbon spotting, nothing too crazy. This one sold for $40.75. And I hope you guys are ready for the next couple. They are quite amazing. 1977 $1 bill with a partial back to front wet ink transfer. And you can see it right here. A nice fade out too on this one, which is what I like a lot. So kind of like an insufficient inking process thing happening on this one too. The back of the note, pretty crisp and clear. as you can see here. So there was some residual ink on the impression cylinder that got transferred to these subsequent sheets that were fed into that for the print. This one right here sold for $284.99 with 37 bids. These are highly desired by paper money error collectors all around. And this next one right here, insufficient ink. It didn't quite print up all of the second process, which is the base black ink with George Washington's profile on this one. Kind of crazy, yeah. And the pictures were a little bit smaller, so when you blew them up, they made them, a little bit more pixelated. So this is the best of the best from these two lots here. From this seller, the back of the note looks very nice. These were found very early because the notes are in crispy, uncirculated condition. This particular example, which by the way is a 2006. And to think that you can't really find anything on much newer, modern dated notes, think again. This one ended up popping out somewhere, probably, in a bank strap, and pulled out of there. This one sold for $564.99. And that's with 45 bids. So everybody was jumping all over this one to own it. Yeah, too bad we can't see a date here. It's from the 2000s, Lincoln Memorial Cent. Now, this is a prototypical example of a coin that was struck through a ton of grease all over the dies. And this is the byproduct of such. It's crazy. It just obliterates a lot of the design on both sides. But when it has to pressure strike through all that grease, you're going to end up with a lot of loss of some of the important stuff that you see here. So this one sold for $18.75 with a couple of bids. A little underwhelming. I've seen these sell for as high as like $50, especially the much more stronger major examples like this one. And this is the one that me personally, I got all sorts of buzz off of this one. 1952D Washington quarter. Yeah, as you can tell, it looks like it's very weakly struck. It actually weighed in at only 4.92 grams, considerably underweight. And I thought to myself, looking at it at first glance, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a little bit, kind of like an underweight, maybe tapered planchet, where it was rolled thin on one side. And then the seller, threw a curveball, put in this image of the edge of the coin. I'm like, oh my gosh, this coin was struck on dime thickness stock. And there is only 1 year that we know of that this occurrence happened on the Washington Quarter Series, and that's 1970D. So this is a 52D. Beating that other one by 18 years. This is quite a marvelous find here. I'm a little bit jealous by the fact that someone else bought it and I don't own it. Because I love being the first to something. There's just something awesome about that. But yeah, this thing was struck on dime thickness stock, on silver stock to be that, that I guess, I mean, yeah, this one got me all stirred up, as you can tell. I'm finding it hard to find the words to kind of show my my adulation for such a find. Yeah, so $203.94. This was actually on eBay as a buy it now list for $199.99 plus shipping. That's it for a, when I say it, unique white whale unicorn kind of coin. It's a pretty heavy hitting coin. It's probably worth a lot more than a couple $100. And that's probably why it sold so quickly, right time, right place. And situationally, that's how you can grab some of these coins that are just insanely non-existent. And that's why I use the word unicorn. Yeah, it's cool to see this. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a mad dash to find the next one. We'll see. I don't know. Back to some normalcy here. How about 1960D Lincoln Memorial Cent? One of my favorite dates to hunt through for varieties. It's loaded with repunch mint marks. This is one of the big one here. FS 502. The secondary Denver mint mark is punched west of the primary on this one. A few little corrosion spots on there. Aside from that, it's a decent coin. This one sold for $22.99 with 4 total bids. We have a couple of nice Cud die breaks. Here's a 1983. You can see that there on the 3 o'clock position, the Cud die break. Again, far from the perfect condition coin. You can see a big fingerprint on the obverse there. This one sold for $41 with 3 bids. And another kingly, princely looking Cud here, and you can see that weakness on the reverse. It's awesome. 1984 this time. And that large die break, a piece of the die had fallen off just due to normal wear and tear. It happens. This one sold for $47.98 with 3 bids as well. So quite a nice pairing here from the same seller. Yeah, Cuds are still king. I'll keep saying that till the cows come home. And this one, pretty cool. Not the first time I've seen it, but it's always cool to find one of these. 2019 Lincoln Shield Cent with a retained Cud or pre-Cud die break right above Lincoln's head. Here's a great close-up of that. And you can always tell the hallmark of a great retained Cud when you can see displacement. So look at the D and God right there. D for displacement. And you can see the shifting of the letter on one side of the crack to the other. So it was really cool to see this one. And a retained Cud normally has 2 cracks that meet back up at the rim, and they go through, like the design details, this piece of the die it had a lot of shake and shimmy to it. And that's the big reason why we have some displacement here. This one sold for $48. Man, it's one of my favorites. I've never owned this one. Maybe sometime in the future. But again, it depends on how many's out there, and there are none. This is the only one. So, it commanded all that it could. I believe it was a buy it now listing for this one. 1943 Steel Cent. This one struck off center out of collar by about 10%. Very fully oxidized, probably on its way to being rusty. This one still sold for $95. Min errors on some of these 1-year shot designs, like this, with the steel, zinc coated steel composition are always going to be highly desired. Doesn't matter what they look like. 2021 P, Washington crossing the Delaware. So what's with all the green crap on this one? Well, guess what? That's a lot of grease. A lot of that mint grease. This is like fresh grease because it's green. It hadn't quite turned to black yet. It turns black when, it's met with a lot of like debris and dust and dirt and stuff. But you can see this one, a lot of hardened little spots and speckles of that mint grease all throughout the front of the coin, and then little spots on the reverse as well. Kind of cool to see. It is, quite hard, and you'll have to scrub it off if you need to. You got to keep it retained because that's where all the value is. This one sold for $54.50. One of my favorites this week, a very, very difficult 1826 over 5 Matron Head Large Cent. This is one of the premier overdates of the series. One of the rarities out there. This one is Newcomb number 8 in the variety files for Newcomb. And this one, no doubt, or you can see that kind of like doubled top curl of the 6 there, which indicates the 6 over 5 on this one. Pretty big sale. It's a pretty decent condition coin too, probably like a VF20. This one sold for $172.70 off of 18 bids. And a really pretty, brilliant, uncirculated 1916 Buffalo Nickel. This one, as you can tell, has the 2 feathers. The third feather over braided or over polished, as they say. You can find this on multiple different dates of the Buffalo Nickel series, and these were all attributed in the Cherry Picker's Guide, which kind of helps the cause for the collectability. Now, these are hard to find in high grades, so this one I was purely pleased to find this one, as a nice mid-state example, and the price tag matched at $237.03 on this one of my favorites again for the week. And the last item for the PCMR this week is this 1985 $5 bill with no overprint whatsoever on this one. So, yeah, they just forgot to print, the serial numbers and the seals and all that stuff. Probably affecting the whole sheet. unless it was a large obstruction of sorts. I doubt it's an obstruction. Sometimes they'll accidentally feed in 2 sheets, to print, or they'll just skip a sheet. It happens. But yeah, there's no overprint whatsoever here. And you can see it on the reverse as well. The 99 on the top right, by the way, is marker writing on the sleeve. The note is in a plastic sleeve, so it's not on the note. This one, nice hefty sale, $376.51 with a total of 26 bids. Gotta love to see that. And that's going to go ahead and wrap things up for this weekend edition of the PCMR. The information in this video is for educational use only, not financial advice. Please collect and or grade your coins responsibly. And that's it, ladies and gents. Go out there and do some hunts. There's some pretty big things for you guys to look out for out there, aside from 2025 coinage. Thank you again. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys later. Happy hunting and keep on collecting.